Stanley Meyer's water car. In 1996, an inventor named Stanley Meyer sat down for dinner at a restaurant in Grove City, Ohio. Halfway through his meal, he clutched his throat, ran outside, and collapsed in the parking lot. His last words to his brother were, "They poisoned me." The coroner ruled it a brain aneurysm. Natural causes. But the technology Stanley Meyer had just demonstrated to potential investors, a car engine that ran on water, producing zero emissions and requiring no gasoline, vanished with him. Meyer's invention was called the water fuel cell. It used electrical resonance to split water into hydrogen and oxygen with far less energy than conventional electrolysis. He claimed his dune buggy could travel from New York to Los Angeles on 22 gallons of water. In 1990, he was granted multiple U.S. patents. In 1992, he demonstrated the technology on national television. Investors came forward. Oil executives took notice, and then the attacks began. In 1996, an Ohio court ruled that Meyer had committed fraud, that his fuel cell was nothing more than conventional electrolysis. But the ruling was based on testimony from experts who never physically examined his device. Meyer refused to allow independent testing under conditions he didn't control. He claimed every time someone got close to replicating his work, they received visits, threats, buyout offers with ironclad non-disclosure agreements. 2 weeks after the court ruling, Meyer met with a group of Belgian investors interested in funding large-scale production. That meeting took place at a Cracker Barrel in Grove City. At the end of the meal, he was dead. His brother Stephen reported that in his final moments, Stanley ran into the parking lot, vomited violently, and said, "They poisoned me." No autopsy was performed beyond the initial examination. The body was cremated within days. Within 24 hours of his death, unknown individuals attempted to break into his home. His research materials were confiscated by authorities and never returned to his family. His workshop was cleaned out. His prototypes disappeared. His patents remain on file. They describe a process that, if real, would have rendered the petroleum industry obsolete overnight. The specific resonance frequency he used, the key to the entire system, was never published. In 2008, a Japanese company named Genepax demonstrated a car powered by water using a technology strikingly similar to Meyer's. They held a press conference. 6 months later, the company shut down without explanation. The technology was never seen again. Today, dozens of independent inventors claim to have replicated Meyer's water fuel cell. Several have had their YouTube channels deleted. Others report harassment, equipment theft, and sudden loss of funding. The global oil industry generates $4 trillion per year. A technology that converts tap water into fuel at near zero cost would eliminate that industry in a single generation. The economic disruption would be catastrophic for them. Stanley Meyer was 57 years old when he died, healthy. No history of aneurysms, no warning signs. Just a sudden, unexplained death immediately after meeting with investors who wanted to bring his invention to market. His patents describe a technology that violates no known laws of physics. Electrolysis is real. Resonance amplification is real. Efficient hydrogen combustion is real. The only thing impossible about Stanley Meyer's invention was the threat it posed to the most powerful industry on Earth. His car is still sitting in storage, seized as evidence, never returned. The fuel cell he built is gone. The frequency is lost, but the patents remain. And the question persists, did Stanley Meyer die of natural causes, or was he silenced for inventing something the world wasn't allowed to have? Suppressed cancer cures. A German biochemist named Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for discovering the root cause of cancer. It wasn't genetics, it wasn't carcinogens, it was oxygen deprivation at the cellular level. Warburg proved that cancer cells thrive in low oxygen, high acidity environments. He demonstrated that by increasing cellular oxygen and alkalinity, cancer cells could be starved and killed. The pharmaceutical industry heard this discovery and then buried it. Why? Because Warburg's research pointed to preventable causes and non-pharmaceutical solutions. Alkaline diet, oxygenation therapy, lifestyle changes. There is no profit in prevention. There is no recurring revenue in a cure. The global cancer treatment industry is worth $150 billion per year. Chemotherapy drugs alone generate $50 billion annually. A single round of treatment can cost $100,000. That industry exists because cancer is treated, not cured. In the 1970s, a researcher named Dr. Stanislaw Berzinski isolated naturally occurring peptides in the human body that he claimed could reprogram cancer cells to die. He called them anti-neoplastons. His patients went into remission. The FDA raided his clinic twice. They attempted to revoke his medical license. They prosecuted him in federal court and lost. Every time, his treatment worked, but it was never approved because you can't patent a naturally occurring substance. In 1974, Mexican doctor Ernesto Contreras began treating terminal cancer patients with Laetrile, a compound derived from apricot seeds that metabolizes into cyanide only in cancer cells, leaving healthy cells untouched. Patients flew to Mexico because it was banned in the US. The FDA declared Laetrile ineffective and dangerous, but the ban wasn't based on clinical trials. It was based on theoretical toxicity. The actual clinical results showed remission in late-stage patients. The treatment was shut down anyway. In 1990, Greek doctor Hariton Zanis Alivizatos developed a serum he claimed could treat cancer by correcting blood pH and cellular oxygen levels. The Greek medical board revoked his license. His serum was banned. His clinic was raided. In 2000, Italian doctor Tullio Simoncini discovered that many cancers were actually aggressive fungal infections, and that sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, could kill them on contact. He published his results. He was arrested and stripped of his medical license. The pattern is unmistakable. Every non-pharmaceutical cancer treatment that shows promise is attacked, suppressed, or banned. Not because they don't work, but because they threaten a system that profits from prolonged treatment, not permanent cures. Otto Warburg himself said it clearly in a 1966 lecture. Cancer has only one prime cause. It is the replacement of normal oxygen respiration of the body's cells by anaerobic cell respiration. He won a Nobel Prize for this. It's been ignored for 90 years. The Rockefeller Foundation, which funded much of early cancer research, also funded the pharmaceutical industry's rise. John D. Rockefeller's investments in petrochemical-based medicine shaped modern oncology. Prevention and natural cures didn't fit the business model. Today, if a doctor suggests oxygenation therapy, alkaline diet, or metabolic cancer treatment, they risk losing their license. Meanwhile, chemotherapy, which kills healthy cells along with cancer cells, remains the gold standard, despite a 2.1% average 5-year survival improvement. In 2016, Johns Hopkins published a study revealing that medical errors are the third leading cause of death in the US. Cancer treatment complications are among the top contributors, yet alternative treatments that don't kill patients remain illegal. Otto Warburg's research is public. His Nobel Prize is documented. His conclusions are reproducible. And yet, 90 years later, oncology textbooks barely mention him. Because acknowledging him would mean admitting that cancer has been a solvable problem all along. Thomas Moray's free energy. In 1925, a self-taught electrical engineer named Thomas Henry Moray demonstrated a device in Salt Lake City, Utah, that pulled electrical energy directly from the atmosphere. No fuel, no moving parts, no connection to the power grid. Moray called it the radiant energy device. In front of witnesses, it powered a bank of light bulbs, a standard iron, a washing machine, and a 600-watt heater, continuously, for hours. The power source was invisible, limitless, and cost nothing. Witnesses included university professors, military officials, and representatives from power companies. They inspected the device. They searched for hidden wires. They found none. The energy came from the air itself, or more precisely, from what Moray called radiant energy from the cosmos. Moray filed for patents. He was rejected over a dozen times. The patent office stated that his device violated known physical principles, yet the device continued to work. In 1929, he demonstrated it to the Rural Electrification Administration. They offered him funding if he handed over full control. Moray refused. He wanted to maintain ownership and license the technology, not sell it outright. The offers stopped. Shortly after, armed men broke into his laboratory. His prototype was smashed with a sledgehammer. His research notes were stolen. In 1939, he rebuilt the device and demonstrated it again, this time to representatives of the military and large energy corporations. Days later, someone took a shot at him through his laboratory window. The bullet missed. The message didn't. Moray spent the rest of his life trying to rebuild and redevelop his radiant energy technology. But every time he came close, something happened. Equipment failures, lab break-ins, financial pressure. He was systematically prevented from ever bringing it to market. In 1974, Thomas Henry Moray died. His complete device was never recovered. His son, John Moray, continued his work and published a book documenting his father's inventions. But by then, the original working prototype was gone. Moray's work wasn't pseudoscience. He understood vacuum tube technology better than most engineers of his time. His device used a form of cold cathode tube that could rectify high-frequency oscillations from atmospheric radiation. Nikola Tesla described similar principles decades earlier. Tesla himself wrote about radiant energy and cosmic rays in his later papers. He claimed the Earth was bathed in limitless energy from the sun and cosmos, and that the right apparatus could tap into it. He too was denied funding and had his work suppressed. The connection is undeniable. Both men discovered methods of extracting usable energy from natural sources without burning fuel or consuming resources. And both men were destroyed for it, not by science but by industry. In 1985, physicist Dr. Paul Brown reproduced elements of Moray's device and presented his findings at an energy conference. Within weeks, his laboratory was vandalized. His funding was pulled. His research was classified under a military secrecy order. The U.S. Patent Office has a category called secrecy orders under the Inventions Secrecy Act of 1951. Over 5,000 patents are currently under secrecy orders. Many involve energy generation technologies that threaten national security, or more accurately, threaten energy monopolies. Thomas Moray demonstrated his radiant energy device over 50 times to independent witnesses. Physicists watched it work. Engineers examined it. Power company officials measured its output. It generated real, measurable electricity from an invisible source, and it was destroyed. The device worked. That was never in dispute. What was in dispute was whether it would be allowed to exist. An invention that provides free, limitless energy eliminates the need for power companies, fuel industries, and energy infrastructure. Thomas Moray's radiant energy device wasn't too dangerous to release because it didn't work. It was too dangerous to release because it did. And in an economy built on selling energy, giving it away for free is the one technology that must never reach the public. Internet kill switch. In 2011, something unprecedented happened in Egypt. As protesters filled Tahrir Square demanding the end of Hosni Mubarak's regime, the Egyptian government did something no modern nation had ever done before. They turned off the internet, all of it. For 5 days, Egypt, a country of 80 million people, went completely dark online. No Facebook, no Twitter, no email, no communication. The entire nation was digitally severed from the outside world, and the technology that made it possible already existed in every major country. It's called the Internet kill switch, and while Egypt used it openly, most nations have built similar capabilities in secret. The United States has had one since 2010, buried inside a piece of legislation called the Protecting Cyberspace as a National Asset Act. The bill gave the president the authority to declare a cyber emergency and take control of private networks, including internet service providers, telecommunications companies, and data centers, without a warrant, without oversight, and without public notification. The justification was national security. Protect critical infrastructure from cyber attacks, but the power it granted was far broader. The ability to shut down communication networks entirely. Not just for enemies, for everyone. When Egypt flipped the switch in 2011, they didn't hack the internet. They didn't need to. They simply ordered the 5 major ISPs that controlled 90% of Egypt's internet traffic to shut down. Within hours, the entire country went offline. The same architecture exists in every nation. In the United States, there are fewer than a dozen Tier 1 internet providers. If the government ordered them to terminate service, the internet would collapse within minutes. No websites, no apps, no cloud services, no communication, total information blackout. In 2012, the Stop Online Piracy Act and Protect IP Act were introduced in Congress. On the surface, they targeted piracy. In reality, they gave the government the power to blacklist entire domains, remove websites from search engines, and cut off payment processing without trial. The backlash was immediate. Wikipedia went dark. Google blacked out its logo. Reddit, Mozilla, and thousands of websites joined the protest. The bills were shelved, but the technology wasn't. The infrastructure to implement those powers was already built. China has operated the Great Firewall since 2003. It doesn't just block websites, it monitors, filters, and censors in real time. Keywords are flagged. Messages are deleted mid-transmission. Entire topics simply vanish from the internet as if they never existed. In 2019, India shut down the internet in Kashmir for 213 days, the longest internet blackout in a democracy in history. Over 7 million people lost access to communication, banking, education, and emergency services. The stated reason, preventing unrest. The real reason, preventing information. Russia has tested its own kill switch repeatedly. In 2019, they successfully disconnected the entire country from the global internet for several hours as a test of their sovereign internet program. They proved they could isolate 144 million people whenever they chose. The pattern is global. Iran shut down the internet during protests in 2019. Myanmar did it during the 2021 coup. Belarus, Ethiopia, and Sudan have all used internet blackouts to crush dissent. The technology is no longer theoretical, it's operational. The danger isn't just authoritarian regimes. In 2021, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security released a report stating that misinformation was a national security threat. The proposed solution: expanded authority to remove content and restrict access to platforms spreading false information. Who decides what's false? Who determines what qualifies as a threat? The same institutions that once told us Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. The same agencies that ran illegal surveillance programs. The same governments that have lied to their people for generations. The internet was built to be decentralized, a network that could survive attacks by routing around damage. But over decades, it's been centralized into choke points. And at every choke point, there's a switch. The question isn't whether they'll use it, it's when. Longevity treatments. In 2009, a group of scientists at Harvard Medical School made a discovery that should have changed the world. They proved that aging is reversible. Not slowed, not delayed, reversed. At the cellular level. The research was led by Dr. Ronald DePinho. His team used mice that had been genetically engineered to age rapidly, elderly at just a few weeks old. They activated an enzyme called telomerase. Within weeks, the mice regrew organs, restored brain function, and became young again. Telomeres are protective caps on the ends of chromosomes. Every time a cell divides, the telomeres shorten. When they're too short, the cell can no longer divide. It ages and dies. Telomerase rebuilds telomeres. It resets the cellular clock. The study was published in Nature, one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the world. It was peer-reviewed, it was reproducible. It proved that aging is not inevitable, it's a treatable condition. And then nothing happened. No pharmaceutical company pursued it. No government funded large-scale trials. The research was quietly shelved, because extending human lifespan indefinitely doesn't fit into an economic system built on scarcity, retirement, and death. The global pharmaceutical industry generates $1.5 trillion per year, treating age-related diseases, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's. If aging itself were cured, that entire industry would collapse. There is no profit in immortality. In 2015, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn won the Nobel Prize for her discovery of telomerase in the 1980s. She spent decades trying to bring telomere-based therapies to market. She faced constant funding rejection, regulatory roadblocks, and institutional resistance. In 2016, a small biotech company called BioViva conducted the first human telomerase gene therapy trial. The CEO, Elizabeth Parrish, used herself as the test subject. Her biological age reversed by 20 years. The FDA shut down her research. The FDA's reasoning: gene therapy is experimental, but gene therapy for cancer is approved. Gene therapy for blindness is approved. Gene therapy that extends life? Too dangerous. Not because of safety, because of implications. In 2018, researchers at Stanford University discovered that young blood transfusions could rejuvenate aging tissues and restore cognitive function in elderly mice. Human trials showed the same effect. Billionaires began quietly funding private clinics. Peter Thiel, Larry Ellison, and Jeff Bezos have all invested millions into anti-aging research. But their goal isn't to make these treatments public. It's to make them exclusive. Life extension for the wealthy. Death for everyone else. In 2020, a clinical trial in Japan successfully used stem cell therapy to regenerate damaged heart tissue in elderly patients. The results were extraordinary. Heart function restored to youthful levels. The trial was not expanded. It was quietly discontinued. Meanwhile, the social security system is built on the assumption that people die around age 75 to 80. If humans started living to 120, 150, or longer, the entire retirement system would collapse. Pension funds would go bankrupt. Insurance models would fail. Governments don't want longer lifespans. They want predictable lifespans. They want populations that age, retire, and die on schedule. Because resource allocation, inheritance laws, and political power all depend on generational turnover. The science is clear. Aging is not a natural law. It's a biological process that can be interrupted, slowed, or reversed. Telomerase therapy works. Stem cell rejuvenation works. Young blood transfusions work. The research exists, the treatments exist. What doesn't exist is the will to make them available. Because a society where people live indefinitely is a society that requires a complete redesign of economics, power, and control. And those who benefit from the current system will never allow that. Antigravity research. In 2014, a senior research engineer at Lockheed Martin named Boyd Bushman gave a deathbed interview. Knowing he had only weeks to live, he revealed what he'd worked on for decades in classified programs. Antigravity propulsion systems. Real. Functional. Hidden. Bushman held 27 patents. He worked on stealth technology, missile guidance systems, and advanced aerospace projects. He was not a conspiracy theorist. He was a career defense contractor with top-secret clearance. And on his deathbed, he decided to talk. He described craft capable of instant acceleration, right-angle turns at impossible speeds, and hovering without any visible means of propulsion. He showed photographs. He named locations: Area 51, Groom Lake, Nevada. He said the technology had existed since the 1950s. Bushman wasn't the first. In 1992, physicist Bob Lazar claimed he had worked at a facility called S4 near Area 51, reverse engineering alien craft that used gravity wave propulsion. His story was dismissed until his employment records and security clearance were independently verified. In 2017, the Pentagon confirmed the existence of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a $22 million classified project studying unidentified aerial phenomena. The videos they released showed objects performing maneuvers that defied known physics. No wings, no exhaust, impossible speeds. Naval pilots reported these craft regularly. Commander David Fravor described an object that dropped from 60,000 feet to sea level in under a second, then disappeared. No human could survive that acceleration. No known aircraft could perform it. The official explanation: unidentified. But unidentified doesn't mean unknown. It means unacknowledged. Because the technology that allows those maneuvers isn't alien, it's classified. And it's been classified for over 70 years. In 1952, aerospace engineer Townsend Brown demonstrated electrokinetic propulsion, using high-voltage electrical fields to create thrust without any moving parts. His devices flew in controlled tests. The military classified his work. He died in obscurity. In the 1980s, physicist Paul Laviolette theorized that gravitational fields could be manipulated using electromagnetic pulses, a concept called electrogravitics. His work was dismissed by mainstream science, but multiple aerospace companies quietly funded his research under classified contracts. In 2004, Boeing was granted a patent for a gravity modification device. The patent described using superconductors and high-frequency oscillations to create localized gravity distortions. Boeing never publicly discussed the technology. The patent exists. The device does not, officially. The pattern is consistent. Every time anti-gravity or gravity manipulation technology approaches public visibility, it's classified, suppressed, or the researcher is silenced. Not because it doesn't work. Because if it did become public, it would render every existing form of transportation obsolete. Imagine vehicles that don't need fuel, that don't need runways, that can travel anywhere on Earth in minutes. No airports, no highways, no infrastructure. The entire global transportation industry, worth trillions, would collapse overnight. The aerospace and oil industries have invested centuries and trillions of dollars into combustion-based propulsion. Antigravity doesn't just threaten that investment, it erases it. And that makes it the most dangerous technology ever developed. Boyd Bushman died in August 2014. His interview has been viewed millions of times. Skeptics claim the photos he showed were toys. But his patents are real. His career is documented, and every detail he described matches what naval pilots have been reporting for decades. Lockheed Martin has never commented on Bushman's revelations. The Pentagon has never explained the videos they released. Bob Lazar's story has never been disproven. The technology remains officially unacknowledged. Anti-gravity propulsion exists. It's not science fiction. It's classified science. And the reason we don't have access to it isn't that it's impossible. It's that the people who control it have decided that the world isn't ready. Or more accurately, that their profits aren't. Memory erasure tech. In 2014, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, announced a project called Restoring Active Memory, or RAM. The stated goal: help soldiers recover from traumatic brain injuries. The real goal: learn how to selectively erase and rewrite human memories. The program allocated $77 million in funding. Research teams from 8 universities and multiple private contractors were recruited. Their objective was to develop brain implants capable of recording, stimulating, and modifying memory formation in real time. Memory is not a fixed recording. It's a reconstructive process. Every time you remember something, your brain rebuilds that memory from fragments stored across different regions. DARPA's goal was to intercept that process, to delete specific memories and implant false ones. In 2013, MIT neuroscientists successfully implanted false memories in mice. They used optogenetics, light-activated brain cells, to make the mice remember events that never happened. The mice reacted to these false memories as if they were real. In 2014, researchers at UC San Diego erased specific memories in rats by disrupting protein synthesis in targeted neurons. The rats forgot learned behaviors on command. The memory was gone. Permanently. It could not be recovered. In 2018, DARPA expanded the program. New contracts were awarded to develop wireless neural interfaces that could read and write to the brain remotely. No surgery, no implants. Just electromagnetic stimulation from outside the skull. The official justification was always medical, treating PTSD, recovering lost memories, helping trauma victims. But the military applications were undeniable. Soldiers who could have traumatic memories erased, prisoners who could be made to forget interrogations, witnesses whose testimony could be altered. In 2020, a whistleblower from one of DARPA's contractor labs claimed the technology had progressed far beyond what was publicly acknowledged. They stated that memory modification was not theoretical, it was operational, and it had been tested on human subjects. The whistleblower's identity was never revealed. Their testimony was never confirmed. Within weeks, the lab they worked for issued a statement denying all claims. The whistleblower vanished from public record. No follow-up was ever conducted. In 2016, Dr. Theodore Berger at USC developed a hippocampal prosthetic, a chip that could replicate the brain's memory-forming functions. In tests, it restored lost memories in rats and improved memory in monkeys. Human trials were approved in 2018. The results were never published. Why? Because a device that can restore memory can also implant memory. If you can write to the brain's memory centers, you can insert experiences that never happened. You can create false witnesses, false confessions, false identities. Imagine a world where memories are not permanent, where what you remember can be altered without your knowledge, where your own recollection of events can be edited by someone with the right technology. That world is not science fiction. It's classified. In 2021, China announced its own brain-computer interface program with explicit goals of cognitive enhancement and memory optimization. Translation: the same technology DARPA developed, but without the pretense of medical justification. The race is not to develop memory modification technology, it's already developed. The race is to control who has access to it. Because the power to alter memory is the power to rewrite history. not in books. In minds. Every totalitarian regime in history has tried to control information, to rewrite the past, to make people forget what they once knew. But those efforts required propaganda, censorship, and violence. Now they only require a signal. DARPA's Restoring Active Memory program is still operational. New contracts are awarded every year. The research continues. And the question is no longer whether memory can be erased or rewritten. It's whether you'll know when it happens to you. Memory erasure tech. In 1997, physicists at the University of Geneva proved something that should have changed telecommunications forever. They demonstrated quantum entanglement across a distance of 10 kilometers. Instant communication, faster than light, with no signal delay. 30 years later, you still don't have it. Quantum entanglement means that two particles can be connected in such a way that measuring one instantly affects the other, regardless of distance. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But it's real. It's been experimentally verified thousands of times. In 2017, Chinese scientists successfully demonstrated quantum communication between a satellite and ground stations separated by 1,200 kilometers. The data was transmitted instantaneously. No light speed delay. No signal degradation. Perfect encryption. Unhackable. This technology would render all current telecommunications infrastructure obsolete. No more fiber optic cables. No more satellites. No more cell towers. Instant communication anywhere on Earth or beyond using quantum entangled particles. So why don't we have it? Because telecommunications is a $1.7 trillion global industry. AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, and every telecom company on Earth profits from owning the infrastructure. Quantum communication requires no infrastructure, just entangled particles. In 2015, DARPA launched the QUINUS program, Quantum Assisted Sensing and Readout. The goal: develop quantum communication for military use. Unhackable communication channels that couldn't be intercepted, jammed, or detected. The results are classified. The military has the technology. China has demonstrated the technology. But the public doesn't have access because telecom companies lobbied governments worldwide to ensure quantum communication remains restricted, not for security reasons, for profit protection. In 2020, the European Union invested €1 billion into the Quantum Communication Infrastructure Initiative. The stated goal: provide secure quantum networks across Europe. But the rollout has been delayed repeatedly, always for technical reasons. The technical reasons are a lie. Quantum communication works. It's been proven in labs, in field tests, and in satellite demonstrations. The delays are political. The telecom industry is lobbying to slow the rollout until they can control and monetize it. Imagine a world where communication is free, where you don't pay for data, where every conversation is perfectly encrypted and impossible to surveil. That world is technologically possible right now. It's just economically unacceptable. In 2016, physicist Anton Zeilinger won the Nobel Prize for his work on quantum entanglement. In his acceptance speech, he specifically stated that quantum communication was no longer theoretical, it was practical. He urged governments to make it publicly available. Nothing happened. No government released the technology. No telecom company adopted it. Because quantum communication doesn't just threaten telecom profits. It threatens surveillance. Unhackable communication means governments can't intercept messages. The NSA, FBI, CIA, and intelligence agencies worldwide depend on their ability to monitor communication. Quantum encryption is mathematically unbreakable. If the public had access to it, mass surveillance would become impossible. In 2018, a Chinese quantum satellite successfully transmitted unhackable video calls between Beijing and Vienna. The encryption was perfect. No known technology could break it. The demonstration proved the system was ready for global deployment. The world ignored it. The suppression of quantum communication is not about science. It's about power. It's about control. It's about preserving systems that profit from scarcity and surveillance. The technology exists. The research is public. The demonstrations are documented. Quantum communication could provide instant, free, unhackable communication to every person on Earth. It's been ready for over a decade. The only reason you don't have it is because the people who control information decided you're not allowed to have it. Not yet. Maybe never.